Hey boys and girls, and welcome to Bedtime Bible Stories here at Valley View Baptist Church. Tonight we're going to be hearing from Miss Kristi Mitchell.
Good evening, boys and girls. Miss Kristi here tonight with your Bedtime Bible Story. You know, I'm so glad we're doing these Bedtime Bible Stories because they're not just stories. They are real people that God wants to teach us something about Him with these people and their stories. Well, tonight we are going to look in Daniel chapter 3 about an amazing story about a king and 3 Jewish boys. Now this king, you might have heard of him before. His name was Nebuchadnezzar. Anybody heard of Nebuchadnezzar? Maybe so. Well, Nebuchadnezzar, he decided one day that it was going to be a good idea for him to build this huge golden statue. It was 90 feet tall and 9 feet wide. How tall would that be, boys and girls? I mean, I'm just 5 feet 4 inches. So think of 90 feet tall. This statue was huge, and it was in the middle of his city. Now, he built this statue, and his plan was every time people heard the music play, they had to bow down, and they had to worship this statue. Worship a statue? Boys and girls, what's it called when we worship anything other than the one true God? Do you know that word? An idol. Yes, this was an idol. King Nebuchadnezzar had made an idol that he wanted all of his people to worship. Are we supposed to worship idols? No way. God said, only worship Him. What would you do if you were told you had to worship an idol? Would you say, no way, I'm not doing it? Or would you be so scared and be like, okay? Well, here's what happened to people who didn't worship this golden statue. King Nebuchadnezzar said they would be thrown into a fiery furnace to die. Wow, how scary that would be. What would we do? It would be hard, but we would know the right thing to do. The right thing is always to trust God and put Him first. Well, there were these 3 Jewish boys. I wonder if you've heard of them before. They have some difficult names. Have you heard of them? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. How many people have heard of those guys? Yeah, well, they looked at King Nebuchadnezzar's orders and they said, no way, we're not doing that. We believe in the one true God, and we are not going to worship an idol. So they refused. Well, some people decided to tell on them and went to King Nebuchadnezzar and said, these boys, they're not following your orders. What are you going to do about it? Of course, King Nebuchadnezzar had to call them into his court, and he called them in and he said, guys, if you will worship this statue now, everything will be cool, everything's good. But if not, you're going into that fiery furnace. In Daniel chapter 3, verse 17 and 18, they said, King, we know that our God is able to deliver us from the fiery furnace and from you. But even if He doesn't, we are not worshiping your false gods. Wow, how amazing is that? They trusted God to deliver them. But even if He wasn't going to deliver them, they said, no, we are not worshiping a false god. That is some true faith. Well, how do you think King Nebuchadnezzar felt about that? Oh my goodness, he was so mad. He got his servants together and he said, heat up the fiery furnace 7 times hotter. Wow, think about how hot that fire was. Maybe you've sat around a campfire and roasted marshmallows, and it gets really hot when you get really close. But think about a fiery furnace 7 times hotter than normal. The Bible even tells us that the servants, when they bound up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and they took them over to the fiery furnace to throw them in, those men died because it was so hot. Wow, that would be so scary. Well, this could be the end of the story, you know. It could be just that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego trusted God and gave their lives to serve Him. And that could be the end. But God had a different plan for them. And as King Nebuchadnezzar was waiting there, watching in the fiery furnace, he looked, and he looked a little closer. And he said, "Wait a minute. Didn't we throw 3 men bound into that fiery furnace?" And all of his people said, "Yes, we did." And he stood up and he said, "Wait a minute. I see 4. And they're loose and they're walking around in that fire and they're not hurt. And the 4th man is likened to the Son of God." Wow, here's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in this fiery furnace in a dangerous situation. And the Lord was there with them. Now, King Nebuchadnezzar, he could have gotten even madder. He could have gotten frustrated. But the Bible tells us that after this, he said, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego." You know what this story tells us? This story tells us that no matter what we're going through, no matter how hard our circumstances get and how scary things look, when we are a child of God and we trust Him, He never leaves us. He never forsakes us. He is always with us. And it also tells us that others around us will see that. So boys and girls, when you go to sleep tonight, put your head on your pillow and sleep sound if you're a child of God, because He is there with you always.
Thank you so much, Miss Kristi. I really want to have the same faith that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had. Hey, thanks for joining us tonight, and we will see you guys Thursday. Good night.